John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Today I'm going to be testing two more heads out of Australia by Alien Archery. You may have seen me test a couple of their other heads. I have those videos here on my channel of the Matrix 2BT, that's a double bevel head that they make, as well as the V2, which is an incredible single bevel head. Check out those tests if you've not seen those already. But today I'm going to be testing one of their newer ones. It's called the Matrix EX SBT, okay? It's kind of complicated, but it's similar to the Matrix 2BT, although it's single bevel. And really, it's kind of a crossover. It's kind of combination single bevel and double bevel. So I'm going to be testing the 150 grain model as well as the 125 grain model. And for the tests, I'm using my Bowtech SR6 set at 72 pounds, and I'm using a Bishop FOC King arrows. So let's zoom on in here, go through some of the design features and specifications, and then put these bad boys to the test. Here's a good look at the Matrix EX SBT close up. And what a cool design. This is the 150 grain model, and this is the 125 grain model. So the 150 grain model has a cutting diameter of a full 1.5 inches, like their V2 Broadhead. And this one has a cutting diameter, the 125 grain model has a cutting diameter of 1.25 inches. The ferrules in all of their broadheads are interchangeable. The blades are interchangeable within the ferrules because they're the same ferrules. All steel construction. The blades are Rockwell hardness of 52, and the ferrules have a Rockwell hardness of 48. They have a thickness, the blade thickness, they're machined, have a thickness of 0.060 inches. And you notice this is a single bevel design, but man, it's a cool looking single bevel design. The back edges are sharpened, as well as there's a sharpened edge here, and a sharpened edge there, and a sharpened edge there. So there's a lot of different edges. It'll take a little bit of time to resharpen, I would imagine, though they're straight single bevel edges, so it's not going to be that complicated. So I'm really eager to put this creative, intriguing looking head to the test. As always, I'm going to be using my Bowtech SR6 set at 72 pounds, except I lower it to 65 pounds for the cardboard penetration test, just so it doesn't blow all the way through. And I'm going to be testing it for long range flight, for penetration, for edge retention, and for durability. And I'm using my Bishop FOC King arrows. Let's see how this broadhead performs. This is the edge retention test. I'm going to do a push paper test after every 2 strokes over the edge of the blade with an Easton hex shaft. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Matrix EX SBT cut paper after 10 strokes of the arrow. The 150 grain penetrated 7 inches. The 125 grain penetrated 9 inches. .125 grain cut through 58 layers. SBT 150 grain cut through 56 layers. The 125 grain rotated 25 degrees, and the 150 grain rotated 40 degrees. Here are the holes caused by each of the Matrix EX SBTs. This is the 1 1/4 inch 125 grain, and this is the 1 1/2 inch 150 grain. You can see classic S-cuts of a single bevel, and you can notice the difference in the length of the hole. I mean, 1.5 inches 1.25 inches. But nice wound channels with both of them, especially with the 150 grain. And as for the head itself, here's the 125 grain model, the 1.25 inch cut. And you can see it held up fairly well. It took most of the brunt, though, right there on the tip. That tip takes a bit of a beating. And so you can see a bit of edge chatter there where it gets thin. Because it's like a double bevel there in the end. And so it gets thinner, and that's why it shows the wear a bit more. As for the spin, still spins very well. And here you get to see the head of the 150 grain 1.5 inch model. And you can see again the same signs of wear in that double bevel tip right there. But this part of the blade, the single bevel, held up fairly well. Just a little bit of edge chatter on this one. Still spins perfectly well. Here's the 125 grain model after being shot into the center block, and you can see the damage there. The tip got kind of smushed, kind of rolled over to one side, and there's a bend in the ferrule as well. Now, it still spins decently, actually pretty well, surprisingly. And like I always say, it's much better for a broadhead to bend in a hard impact test like that than to break. Because if it does that in an animal, it's going to continue to cause damage while it's embedded in the animal, but a broken blade can't do much. Here's the 150 grain model after being shot into the cinder block, and you can see that it held up fairly well. You got that same rollover at the tip, but not very extreme. And it still spins very well. So what'd you think of the Matrix EX SBTs? Man, they're pretty cool heads, right? They have some really cool, different, innovative design features to them. I love the way that all these heads are interchangeable within the same ferrule, so you can mix and match and try to find one that really works for your hunting purposes. So check out the scores and go through them, compare them to some of the other heads that I've tested, compare them to the other ones from Alien, and again, see which one works best for your setup.